Brandon, but 4 years ago today, you released your video on why Finland has the best education system in the world and led me to do a study in Helsinki the following year. Wait, really? You watched this video and after that, you went and did a study in Helsinki the following year because of watching this video, or
brag about being number one. Except when it comes to education, that is, where we regularly rank around 37th in the world. Frankly, many of us are lucky we can spell USA well enough to chant it at sporting events. But you know what country does consistently rate among the best in the world in education? Finland, apparently. That's right, this small Nordic country best known for giving the world Nokia phones, Angry Birds, and awful heavy metal music is actually a leader in world education. Not only does Finland have the highest high school graduation rate in Europe, but on international tests, Finnish students regularly rank near the top in reading, math, and science. And the Finns do this.
Hold on, we gotta go back to this chart real quick. I love this chart. OECD average on sciences is 502 or 501. United States is 502. OECD average on math 496. The United States 487. Reading 500 in comparison to the OECD average. Finland 554.
Near the top in reading, math, and science. And the Finns do this without overloading.
That scale is, by the way, disgusting. I know.
Loading kids with endless.
I know. Stat nerds, shut up.
Hours of homework or turning school into a mindless drudgery.
Bueller.
Imagine comparing a country of less than 20 million to a country of 350 million. Also, how diverse is Finland? What does diversity have to do with anything?
You don't love the spirit
the
of
only
justice.
reason
You
why
love
brown
your father,
and
the
black
devil.
countries, or predominantly brown, predominantly black countries, are in worse conditions overall is the fact that they get dunked on by America and American imperialism. That's why they've been held behind. This is the quickest way to spot someone who has been blinded by racial agitation his entire life and truly sees the world in unironically black and white, in black and white ways. Comparing a country with less than 20 million, yeah, you're right. Economies don't scale, by the way. So you're correct. You know, there's a tap off, there's a cutoff. And then you reach diminishing returns on the economy. If you have 20 million people, then you have a perfectly fine economy. But after the first 20 million, every other person is unemployed and never actually pays back into the system. So thank you for pointing that out.
Bueller.
So why does Finland have the most ass-kicking educational system on earth? Here are the 5 reasons that set Finland apart. Reason number 1, no child gets left behind, literally. Finland provides all families, particularly low-income families, with a vast social safety net. The Finnish government sends a baby box of supplies to every family with a newborn child. And then from there on, childcare is heavily subsidized, allowing most families to send their children to some form of early childhood education. Finland's public schools also concentrate on making sure that every student achieves basic proficiency in the subjects that they study. Whereas here in the US, students and school districts are expected to compete against one another for limited resources, inevitably creating a system of winners and losers. This difference in approach is one of the reasons why the achievement gap that exists between the rich and poor in American schools is smaller in Finland than anywhere else in the world. Reason number 2, they're just like more chill, man. Finnish children don't even start school until they turn 7, and once they're in school, they get almost triple the amount of recess time as American students. They're rarely assigned homework until high school, and they almost never take standardized tests. In fact, Finnish students are only required to take 1 standardized test, and that's not until the end of high school. Reason number 3, teachers are actually, get this, respected. Becoming a teacher isn't easy in Finland. There are only 8 universities that offer the master's programs required to earn a teaching credential, and only 1 in 10 applicants get accepted. So it's no surprise that teachers in Finland receive roughly the same level of respect as doctors and lawyers. Plus, thanks to powerful unions, Finnish teachers only spend 4 hours a day in the classroom and take 2 hours a week for professional development. They also don't have to deal with merit pay, which has been the cause behind many high-profile cases here in the US of teachers and administrators cheating on standardized tests. Reason number 4, they believe that less is more. And I'm rhyming now. Finns believe that when it comes to education, patience, hands-on learning, and focusing on problem solving are more important than listening to lectures, mindless test preparation, and memorization of information that students will promptly forget as soon as they leave the exam room. I know, it's a really crazy concept, right? And then Finnish teachers don't race through lessons to cram as much information as possible into students' heads so that the students can then spit that information back out on a standardized test. Instead, they give priority to moving slowly and taking as much time as necessary to thoroughly investigate fewer topics, but in much greater depth. Reason number 5, they have fewer social ills. Finland may not be the socialist paradise every Bernie Sanders voter dreams about, but it's pretty close. Almost everyone in Finland is middle class, so income inequality is not nearly the problem there that it is in the US. Almost all Finnish kids come to school well-fed, rested, and ready to learn. There are no metal detectors, no cops patrolling the school hallways, and certainly none of this.
I don't know if I can show the rest of this, but it's a cop violently... Actually, I can't show it. There's no blood.
Finland also has far fewer immigrant students.
Here, watch that again.
Well-fed, rested, and ready to learn. There are no metal detectors, no cops patrolling the school hallways, and certainly none of this.
You have cops in school in the U.S.? What the actual fuck? Deca 796. This was a big point of contention in a early conversation that I had with a particular Twitch streamer where I mentioned that having police officers in schools was a significant and played a significant and fundamental role in the school to prison pipeline. And Americans in the chat were like, what the fuck are you talking about? What? Of course you're going to need cops in schools. What are you, crazy? Yeah, that was a black female student, yes.
Finland also has far fewer immigrant students, which is kind of like Donald Trump's dream, I guess. Only 1 in 40 students in Finnish schools has immigrant parents. Compare that number to the US public schools, where that figure is 1 in 5. That means there are not nearly as many kids in Finland's schools who are trying to learn math, science, and history in a completely new language, all while also trying to learn that new language itself. So should we in the US just admit that the Finns know education better than we do and go ahead and abandon our system and adopt theirs? Of course not. That's ridiculous. For one thing, where would we find enough teachers who speak Finnish? Zing. But what we should admit is that when it comes to education, we just don't have all the answers, and if we do, we probably cheated to get them. There's plenty we can learn from countries like Finland that do things very differently,
Bazinga.
but have a proven track record of achieving better results. We just have to be more open to what educational innovators are doing around.
By the way, this was before, this precedes now this videos, just for the record. Like, before all of these like legacy publishers and used to make these videos, I was unironically one of the first people that started making these sorts of videos. Now they're so commonplace that even when I say this, people are like, what do you mean? Of course, like this is a fundamental part of how people cover politics. EU frogs reacting to NA normalcies helps solidify we are fucked.
On the globe. If we could only stop shouting, we're number 1 long enough to listen for a change.
No, this kind of video, of course, existed on the internet, obviously, far before I even decided to go on camera. But it didn't really exist for political commentary in this capacity. Like, the only thing that I can point to that was similar to this is like The Daily Show, but they didn't even have like a green screen segment, or they didn't have like a pre-scripted segment similar to this. Like, the closest thing I can point to is Sexy Philip DeFranco. Like, SourceFed, yeah. And that was around the same time that I started doing this as well, so.
You